I was standing in my kitchen holding 2 plane tickets to Greece when my phone buzzed with an email from my boss. The subject line read, PTO cancellation effective immediately. My honeymoon was in 48 hours. The honeymoon I'd requested 8 months ago. The honeymoon that had been approved by 3 different managers, and someone had just decided it wasn't happening anymore.
Let me take you back to where this nightmare began. My name is Marcus, and I'd been working as a senior data analyst at a mid-sized financial services company for almost 5 years. I wasn't just good at my job. I was the guy everyone came to when the quarterly reports needed to make sense, when the executives wanted projections that actually held water. When I got engaged to my fiancée Sarah in January, the first thing I did, literally the next business day, was submit my PTO request for our honeymoon. We dreamed of Greece for years. Santorini, Athens, the whole thing. 2 weeks in September, right after our August wedding. I followed every protocol. I submitted the request through our HR portal, emailed my direct manager, and even CC'd the department head just to be safe. Within 3 days, I had written approval from my manager, Diana. She'd even congratulated me in person, said she was happy for us, and told me to enjoy every minute. I documented everything. Screenshot of the approval, printed copy in my desk drawer. I'd learned a long time ago that corporate memory is conveniently short. The months rolled by. I trained a junior analyst, Kevin, specifically to cover my responsibilities while I was gone. I created a 40-page handoff document. I walked him through every single recurring report, every stakeholder quirk, every potential fire that might need putting out. I was meticulous because I refused to be the guy who left chaos behind. Our wedding came and went, the happiest day of my life. Sarah was radiant, our families laughed and cried and danced until midnight. We spent our wedding night dreaming about the crystal blue waters waiting for us in Greece. 2 days before our flight, I was at home packing when my phone buzzed. I assumed it was work asking some last-minute question about a file location or a password. Instead, I saw an email from Victor Haynes, our new operations director who joined the company just 6 weeks earlier. I opened it and felt my stomach drop through the floor. Marcus, after reviewing current project timelines and staffing needs, I'm revoking your previously approved PTO for September 8th to 22nd. Your presence is required for the Henderson account migration. Please confirm receipt and availability. No apology, no acknowledgement that I was about to leave for my honeymoon, just a cold, clinical revocation of something that had been approved 8 months ago. My hands were shaking as I called Diana, my original manager. She didn't answer. I tried 3 more times, nothing. I texted her, read receipts on, no response. I called HR. The representative, a woman named Patricia, sounded uncomfortable the moment I explained the situation. She kept saying things like, "These decisions come from leadership," and "I understand your frustration, but..." Every sentence had a but. But business needs change. But the Henderson account is critical. But Victor has final authority on staffing. I asked her point blank, can they legally revoke approved PTO 48 hours before it starts? She paused way too long before saying, company policy allows management to adjust schedules based on operational needs. Adjust schedules? I repeated. I have non-refundable plane tickets, hotel reservations. My wife is sitting right here. We just got married. I'm sorry, Marcus. I really am. Sorry didn't get me to Greece. I barely slept that night. Sarah tried to stay calm, but I could see it in her eyes. The disappointment, the disbelief. We'd been planning this for over a year. She'd taken time off from her own job, coordinated with her family, bought new luggage. The next morning, I went into the office even though I wasn't supposed to start my leave until that afternoon. I needed to look Victor in the eye. I needed answers. Victor's office was on the 4th floor, a corner space with glass walls that made him look like he was perpetually on display. When I knocked, he waved me in without looking down from his laptop. Marcus, good, you got my email. Victor, I need to talk to you about this. He finally looked at me, his expression completely neutral. What's there to discuss? The Henderson account is a $15 million account. The migration is happening in 10 days. I need my best analyst on it. I trained Kevin specifically for this time. He knows everything I know about the recurring work. And the Henderson migration wasn't even on the schedule when I requested this time off 8 months ago. Schedules change. This is my honeymoon, Victor. My wife and I are supposed to fly out tomorrow morning." He leaned back in his chair and steepled his fingers like some kind of movie villain. "Look, I get it, you're upset, but I've been brought in to turn this department around, and that means making tough calls. The Henderson account is my priority. You can reschedule your trip." "Reschedule?" I could feel my blood pressure rising. "Do you have any idea how much we've spent? The reservations, the tours, the flights, most of it is non-refundable." "That's unfortunate, but I'm sure your wife will understand that sometimes work comes first." I stood there, stunned. This man had been here 6 weeks. He didn't know my work. He didn't know what I sacrificed for this company. And he was telling me my wife would understand?
Okay, I need to stop here for a second because I'm standing in this man's office and he's just told me my wife will understand that work comes first, 2 days before our honeymoon. I want to know what you think. Subscribe if you believe I should have walked out right then and never looked back. Drop a comment and tell me what you would have done in that moment. Because what I did next, it changed everything. And honestly, I'm still not sure if I made the right call. I didn't walk out. Not yet. Instead, I took a breath and tried one more time. "Victor, I'm asking you, manager to employee, person to person, please reconsider. I've given this company 5 years. I've never missed a deadline. I trained my replacement specifically for situations like this." He shrugged. "My decision is final. If you're not here Monday, I'll consider it job abandonment." Job abandonment for taking approved leave. I left his office in a daze, but as I walked back to my desk, something hardened inside me. This wasn't just unfair, it was wrong, and I wasn't going to take it lying down. I spent the next 4 hours doing something I should have done long ago, building my case. I pulled every email, every approval, every piece of documentation related to my PTO request. I found the original HR policy manual when I was hired, which stated that approved PTO could only be revoked with 30 days' notice, except in cases of documented emergency. I also discovered something interesting about the Henderson account migration. According to the project files, the actual technical work was being handled by an external vendor. The internal team's role, basic oversight and status reporting, nothing that Kevin couldn't handle. I compiled everything into a folder and marched straight to HR, but I didn't go to Patricia this time. I went to her boss, the HR director, a man named Raymond who'd been with the company for over a decade. Raymond listened, really listened. I showed him the original approval, the policy language about 30 days' notice, and the project scope that proved my presence wasn't actually critical. His expression grew increasingly uncomfortable. "Marcus, I'm going to be honest with you. This shouldn't have happened. But Victor, he has a lot of latitude right now. The executives brought him in specifically to shake things up." Shake things up by destroying employee morale? By showing everyone that approved time off means nothing? Raymond sighed. "Let me see what I can do." I went home that night not knowing if I still had a job or a honeymoon. Sarah and I sat on the couch, surrounded by half-packed suitcases, trying to figure out our next move. At 9 p.m., my phone rang. It was Raymond. "Marcus, I've spoken with Victor and the executive team. They're not budging on the PTO, but I want you to know, off the record, that I think this is wrong, and I've documented my objection." Something in his tone made me pause. "Raymond, what aren't you telling me?" "Just keep your documentation, all of it. And Marcus, whatever you decide to do, I understand." I hung up and looked at Sarah. She was already looking at me. "What do you want to do?" she asked. I thought about 5 years of late nights, missed dinners, weekends spent fixing other people's mistakes. I thought about Victor's smug face telling me my wife would understand. "I want to go to Greece," I said. The next morning, we boarded our flight. I sent one email before we took off, a formal message to HR stating that I was taking my previously approved leave as documented and that I had attached the original approval and company policy for their records. Greece was everything we'd dreamed of. Sunsets over Santorini, fresh seafood by the water, my wife's laugh echoing through ancient ruins. For 2 weeks, I let myself forget about Victor, about spreadsheets, about all of it. When we landed back home, I had 47 emails. Most were from Victor,
escalating in hostility. The first few demanded I return immediately. The later ones threatened termination for insubordination and job abandonment. The final one was a formal termination notice, effective immediately. But there was one other email that caught my attention. It was from Raymond, sent the day before we returned. "Marcus, call me when you land, before you talk to anyone else." I called him from the airport parking lot. What he told me changed everything. Apparently, while I was gone, 3 other employees had come forward with similar stories about Victor. Approved vacation time revoked without notice, promises broken, threats made. One woman had been denied bereavement leave for her father's funeral. The complaints reached the CEO's desk, and an internal investigation was launched. Victor, turned out, had been documenting performance issues for anyone who pushed back against him, building paper trails to justify eventual terminations. He'd done the same thing at his last 2 companies. When they dug into his background, they found a pattern of hostile management practices that had resulted in 3 separate lawsuits. Victor was terminated 4 days after I returned. The CEO personally called me to apologize and offer me my job back with full back pay for the days I was supposedly terminated. He also offered me a promotion to team lead, the position that had conveniently opened up with Victor's departure. I thought about it for exactly 24 hours. Then I declined. Because here's the thing, it should never have gotten that far. I shouldn't have had to fight for time off that was approved 8 months in advance. I shouldn't have had to risk my job just to go on my honeymoon. And I definitely shouldn't have had to rely on one decent HR director to eventually do the right thing. I found a new job within 3 weeks. Better pay, better culture, and a manager who treats PTO like the earned benefit it is. Sarah and I sometimes look at our Greece photos and laugh about the insanity of it all. But underneath the laughter, there's a lesson I'll never forget. Document everything, know your rights, and never let anyone convince you that your life should always come second to their bottom line.
Thank you so much for sticking with me through this entire story. If you've ever had approved time off revoked or dealt with a manager who treated you like you were disposable, I want to hear about it. Drop your experience in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already, because I share stories like this every week. And if you have your own workplace nightmare you want me to tell, submit it. Your story might be the next one we feature. Take care of yourselves out there.